Hello fellow Star Trek Fleet Commanders, 𝗂𝗏𝗁𝗂 from BHD8 Gaming here again. For a long while, players have been told to hold tight at operations level 39 before making their way into the 40s. Not long ago, however, this seems to have been flipped on its head, and I had been told by a lot of players that I should get to level 40 through 42 as quickly as possible, as a multitude of new things open to players at this point. So, using my own primary account as the test subject, we hop straight from operations level 38 to operations level 41 during the June 2022 Battle Pass season. Let's talk about it. It is generally a good idea to camp at those odd operations levels in Star Trek Fleet Command, as you usually unlock new research and other goodies without making your dailies any more difficult. However, the operations level 39 camp is a bit of a gray area now that some tempting goodies for players have been put into the level 40 through 42 range. Other players that have already passed this are encouraging our players in the level 30 range to go ahead and skip your camp at level 39 so you can get some of these goodies. Some of those include more grade 4 materials from your refining, grade 4 ship parts refining, USS Discovery warp range increase, maxed disco refinery speedups, the Franklin A tier up, particles from the treasury, and a warp range increase via the warp particle after you've completed the Angel in Disguise chain around operations level 42. All of these were factors for my leaping from operations level 38 to 41 so rapidly. So let's draw attention to this real quick as well. If you level up during a Battle Pass season, your Battle Pass does not scale with your new operations level. I have been told that usually about 48 to 72 hours before a new Battle Pass season is launched, you are kind of locked in at the operations level you're at until that Battle Pass season ends. So take that into consideration as well, because leveling up to an entire new grade is quite difficult when your Battle Pass rewards are still keeping you in the previous grade, because your event requirements will scale off of your true operations level, but the payouts for those events will stay at what they were previously. After having done it, however, I can say that getting trapped in between grades is not an ideal situation. I still require an awful lot of grade 3 materials to finish research, building, things like that. I also am going to have to make a call quite soon on whether I'm going to try to build one of those uncommon grade 4 ships or try to lean on one of my G3 epic ships until I get the ability to build a G4 rare ship. That is, however, a little beyond the scope of this video, so at this point I think it would be best if we started recommending to our players to plan to soft camp at operations level 39 before moving on to levels 40 through 42. But they should start preparing for that soft camp as early as operations level 35. Yes, you will want to get started on that grade 4 economy as quickly as possible, but not at the detriment of your enjoyment of this game. It serves little purpose for us to encourage players to get to operations level 40, 41, 42, if they'll just get spun out on their way there, hate the game, and stop playing entirely. So here's some operations level 39 soft camping guidelines the BHD8 gaming crew has put together for players entering this stage of the game. Plan to spend only one Battle Pass season, 2 at the most, at operations level 39 while you complete as many of these as you can. The first thing on our list is to get that rep level to commended with your primary faction, primary being the one that you wish to build the grade 4 uncommon ship at shipyard level 42. The next tip that we have is to get a Meridian push to tier 8, tier 9 if you're lucky with the grade 4 Armada chest to get those rare survey parts, as it will make a very decent deep space miner for you. You definitely want to keep your Franklin A pushed to its max during this entire process, as those swarm dailies are about half of your daily mission points you need to open that final chest, which is extremely important. Not to mention all the swarm related events that you get outside of your daily missions with the Battle Pass, Swarm Sunday, and other things. You'll want to get your G3 epic ship to tier 4 at the absolute minimum. You can get by there, but tier 5 is really recommended. If you're going to be building one of those grade 4 uncommon ships at shipyard level 42, you should be okay to do that. If, however, you plan on skipping that grade 4 uncommon ship and waiting until you can build the grade 4 rares, you should really just push that epic ship to as far as you can get it. Just keep pushing it until you can get to that grade 4 rare ship, because you're going to be asking an awful lot out of that ship on your way through levels 42 through 45. As close to the time that you reach operations level 40 as possible, you're going to want to have your USS Discovery max tier, so you can start getting those huge speed ups out of the refinery. It is not a bad idea to start stockpiling your Armada credits for those G4 Armada chests, as well as your directives for when you get your Armada Control Center to level 39, and you can start hosting with an additional slot for your armadas, which will let you tackle bigger targets. You'll want a pretty hefty material stockpile of not only the grade 3 stuff that you will use, but also grade 4, as you will want to hold on to that until a bonus refinery rolls around. You can go ahead and convert Latinum into the grade 4 common materials, but you cannot do so with the uncommon and rares, and even the epics, which will roll around at this point in the game. So stockpiling as much G4 as you can for the next bonus refinery event so that you can start getting ahead on your uncommon, rare, and epic materials is a really good idea. If you make it to the point where you're no longer using G3 materials for your building and research, then you'll still want a huge stockpile of that, because you'll begin maxing and scrapping your shipyard level 26 ships. That's the D3 class, Mayflower, and Legionary. The researches we recommend that you push to your max at that level are anything that increases your reputation per kill for your primary and secondary factions. You're a long way away from that 1 billion lockout at this point in the game, very likely, so you won't be pushing your third faction for quite a while, but that first one especially, and very likely the secondary, is not a bad idea to be getting additional rep for every kill of hostiles that you do, and you'll be doing a lot of it. Of course, anything that has to do with efficiency of either materials or resources, always pick that up. Never don't do this. All research pertaining to your swarms in the starship tree, do it. Do it until it's maxed, always. Your ability to hit the highest level swarms that you can is extremely important, as we've already mentioned. In that outlaw tree, really you're going to want to get that M score as high as possible. Prime Stella efficiency is almost mandatory here. It's not really, but you could tell people Dan says it's mandatory if you wanted to. You'll also want to pick up anything that boosts your officer stats as soon as it becomes available. Remember, officers are this game. You want to make sure you get the away teams unlock epic assignments and the away team launch thrusters. Away teams, because they leverage those officers as well, are an extremely important piece of the game, especially when 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 drops a battle pass event on us out of nowhere that requires away teams. It's a very good idea to make sure that you are constantly keeping up with those away team assignments. So anything that gives you a new rarity for your missions or adds another slot is extremely valuable. For the combat tree, really just max everything that you can, because as much as officers are the game, you have to put them to use somehow, and combat ships is pretty much the primary way to do that. As for the territory tree, really just do the best that you can do. All that territory research is extremely great, but while I was in this exact range in the game, I was opting to push that meridian with my iso-emulsion instead of worrying so much about my research, and I circled back around and started picking up that research again later. If it's not the iso-emulsion, then the particles can also kneecap your progress in this tree, so don't sweat that too much. You'll just want to keep this tree as pushed forward as you can possibly get without sacrificing that meridian that helps you get here in the first place. Remember, we're only soft camping at operations level 39 as well, so don't kill yourself trying to hit all of the things on this research list. This is a great point to mention that you should drop your comments down below if you feel like I'm missing any important research or anything else at this point that our players, specifically at operations 39 soft camping for 1 to 2 battle passes, should consider. Moving on to the buildings we feel like you should push to their max, the shuttle bay, surprisingly, was one of the buildings that I neglected as we mentioned in a previous video, and I highly recommend you do not do that. You'll want to push that shuttle bay as high as you can get it, really. Your defense platforms, of course, should never be neglected. Your dry docks are extremely important because they are usually what is required to get those defense platforms upgraded. They also usually reduce the cost of your repairs and or increase the speed of repairing. Your defense technologies building should not be neglected, as you're going to need that to be pretty high up, if not maxed, by the time that you're trying to reach level 42 anyways. The engine technology lab, science lab, and foundry are also extremely important buildings that will kneecap your research in many cases if you're not keeping up with them, so please don't neglect those on your way up. The Armada Control Center should pretty much always be pushed to its max, but we'll go ahead and mention it here. All of your vaults you're really going to want to focus on as well. The warehouses are not quite as important, but the vaults are extremely important because they will also prevent you from being able to operations up at certain stages in the game. We also recommend keeping that refinery up for much of the same reason. It will prevent you from being able to progress further in the game if you start to neglect the level of your refinery. For those of you who want the inverse of this list, which is really things that we feel like you could kind of go lax on or skip entirely, the ship hangar, scrapyard, your generators, and your warehouses, your astronautics studio could potentially be skipped as well. It's not really required to move forward in the game, but for the sake of efficiency, we do not recommend skipping it. And kind of the same with your 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 factory. It's still recommended to get up there because you'll get those G4 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵s if you continue to push it up to level 40 and beyond. Some final tips that we have for players really in general, but especially at this stage in the game, is to not touch those resource tokens. You'll instead want to leverage raids and your events to get the resources that you need to be able to build those buildings and researches to get further in the game. Your tokens should really be saved for raid recovery. If you get scooped to the vaults, it's really going to kneecap you here. Having a bunch of tokens stored up is really going to get you back on your feet a lot sooner. Now you can calculate really your exact necessary resources for your account if you go to 𝗂𝗏𝗁 and plug in all of your information. As a general guideline though, raid like as much as you can. More specifically, 15 billion-ish par steel is roughly what it took me to go from operations level 38 to operations level 41. So if you're just interested in a ballpark number, that's really a good way to go. The dilithium and tritanium, if you are able to source 15 billion par steel through raids or through events, you'll likely end up with enough to cover your upgrades for those as well. Now, I'm sure that we will have varying opinions on this, so comment section, please drop down below anything you feel like we've missed or anything that you feel like you should reiterate that we got right here. The goal, as always with these videos, is a starting point for a bigger conversation for the benefit of the whole community. If you'd like to financially support the channel, the Patreon and PayPal links will be down in the description below. Likes are free and help out the channel quite a bit, as well as your comments, your subscriptions, and sharing this video to your friends and alliance mates. Check out the videos about to come on the screen for more Star Trek Fleet Command and other gaming content. Choose to live, my friends. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you again soon. Last but certainly not least, thank you to Domino for supporting the channel at the Legendary Jarl level on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who supports the channel, but we definitely want to draw special attention to those donating on Patreon or through the YouTube join feature at that high of a level.